impact the work of gemstone laboratories and gem reporting. There will be significant changes ahead, as you can well imagine. David, you're right at the forefront of this technology. And could you just sort of paint a picture for us about how you see the work of Gem Labs changing in the future? Just, in a really broad brush way, explain to us your vision as to how the work of Gem Labs will evolve.
Okay, so as maybe some of you know, we also operate a Gem Lab for grading diamonds. And I think we can separate Gem Labs very, very roughly into two areas. One is research, understanding the more complex aspects of whether it's diamonds, gemstones, pearls, and so on and so forth. More on the research side, the more advanced processes, and that's one of the areas. And in that area, there's definitely area for AI to impact. But I think the biggest impact will come with the areas where there is very repetitive, monotonous work that is being done by graders, not necessarily gemologists. Work that's done again and again and again, this person picking up a diamond, checking what the color is 50, 60 times a day. And in that area where there's a very deterministic process, we can see that technology and AI-driven grading is already replacing the work of the grader. So I think that's the big area where there's going to be the impact in the shorter term. On the area of research and the more complex processes, there you need a lot more advanced understanding, and therefore it's not that AI cannot exist, and I think Daniel will probably talk a little bit about that as well, but there's a lot more complexity to replace people doing that kind of work.
So just to quickly follow up, what will this mean then for jobs? You're saying that diamond grading jobs will go. I mean, is this across the board, and what sort of time span are we talking about here?
So again, the repetitive processes of, let's say, color grading, the simple clarity grading, the simple processes, I think, definitely are already in the process of being replaced by technology and AI grading. If I'm not mistaken, GA already does color grading fully or mostly by AI. We do a lot of the color grading, or most of the color grading, as well as a lot of the clarity grading. And I think those kind of jobs of the graders are going to be replaced by technology. Now, again, that always get asked this over the last decade or two. I've also been in the industry for 25 years. So as a technology company, I get asked that question repetitively about jobs. And I think when looking back, I don't have a crystal ball to look forward what will happen, but I can look back in history what has happened. And I can actually quite proudly say that if I look at our technology, it has not removed jobs. It's increased quantities of jobs. So the quantity of people working on technology today in the diamond industry has increased tenfold as compared to previously, and the number of jobs that replaced increased them. Second, it increased the level of the people. So people working on very lower skill now work on computers and high-tech systems. So I don't see, at least looking back in history, the negative impact. Also, we need to realize that technology is always moving forward. I mean, when Thomas Edison invented the light bulb, I don't think he thought about all those candle makers that are going to be out of jobs. As long as there's value that technology brings to the table, there's a positive impact. Or if we look today at automated cars, if I'm not mistaken, in the US, there's 4 million truck drivers. I don't know how many taxi drivers. They are going to be out of a job. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Probably going to be a lot less accidents. So as long as there's value to technology that is brought to the table, and those jobs will be changed to something else, I think there's overall a positive impact of technology when it's brought to the table.
Let's move on to you, Daniel. Gubelin have proprietary technology. Can you just tell us about how you foresee the work of the Gubelin Gemstone Lab changing, evolving in the future? I mean, are you essentially going to become a software provider to the global trade?
Good idea. We still perceive ourselves as being a lab, testing any kind of materials. For us, the main change that you are describing already happened as well. I mean, when I started at the Gubelin lab, we had basically a room full of gemologists, so earth scientists, mineralogists, geologists doing the work. Meanwhile, the actual gemologists are a minority of the people in our lab. We have a majority of people that are busy either as analysts, so collecting data, or as a data scientist, solid-state physicists, different type of people that are very good in the task they do, where you still want to have human beings. And the actual interpretation of the data, our work, just to make it clear, you're here to learn, right? You said. So there's a big difference between diamond and color gemstones. What we do is not forcibly or not only grading. In color gemstones, it's very much a forensic approach to try to find out where does the stone come from which source, and has it been treated in one way or not, because that's typically not disclosed. Neither the industry knows about the provenance exactly, nor they know about whether it has been treated. So we're collecting data and we're trying to make sense out of that. So that has already changed a lot, the work. The software now that we are having, which we have named Gemtelligence. Now, if you ask me, are we still going to be a lab in a couple of years? Maybe not. We are just about to launch a service. We have 2 pilots running right now where we want to offer this, say, the most difficult task of what the Color Gemstone Lab is doing is trying to make sense of the data you collect, because you need a complete reference collection, because we are comparing the data that we collect on the unknown stone with the pattern of data we collect from known stones. So we are in the very privileged position to own a reference collection of some 30,000 plus stones, which is covering all commercially relevant color gemstones mines worldwide. That's a privilege. Not everyone is having that. So we are lucky to have that. And we thought, hey, now we have this software. We have the knowledge that we could gather seeing the most important stones over so many decades. We are in business since 102 years. Why not offering that software that we're having now to the industry? Because many labs out there, we got contacted by labs from, say, Saudi Arabia, from India, from all over parts of the world, and they say, can you share the reference collection with us? No, we don't want to do that. But now we can share the knowledge condensed in this software with them. So we want to offer this software as a service to other laboratories, to our competitors. We know that there are brands out there like Cartier. They have a fully fledged laboratory, fantastic lab, fantastic people operating it, but they struggle to make sense of the data because they do not have the reference collection. They might not have the competent people making in a consistent way sense of the data, and that's what we plan now to offer. So maybe we're going to change from a lab to a software company eventually.
So Wu Yi, it looks like there are very big changes ahead. I mean, GIA, I understand, have around 2,000 diamond graders. Do you foresee a time when GIA could be using, for example, Gubelin software in their own gemstone reporting? And what are your thoughts about jobs? I mean, are those diamond grading jobs going to go?
Well, AI is a great technology, great computer technology that makes computer mimic human intelligence. We in GIA have been trying to apply AI technology to improve our service very hard. As what David mentioned, some area AI can be applied and some area is difficult. We use it, try to improve our diamond grading, color stone service, and try to automate our service as much as possible. But I do want to mention 2 things. In last 20-something years, the gem laboratories have been experiencing a great progress in technology. Some technologies are AI related very recently, some are really not. GIA has been pursuing this technology and including AI to improve our services. So for example, the color grading of a diamond, GIA used to have a lot of color graders to do color grading. Now we have very few because our instrumentation, not necessarily AI related, would be able to do excellent job, much faster, much better, and much more accurate. So this is one point I want to make. And second point I want to make about AI technology, to make AI work, data quality is extremely important. The poor data would generate very inaccurate data, so they need a pretty big infrastructure to make sure data can be correctly collected and to make sure the AI model is going to work. That's not a simple task, a huge investment, and the human resources need to be involved. Yeah, GI has totally have over 3,000 employees. A lot of people are working on diamond grading. I think we will continue to improve our technology in diamond grading service, diamond ident, colorstone ident, including our many service, our jewelry service, for sure, with AI technology involved. But to answer your question, I don't see in the immediate near future, let's say 3-5 years, that development would need to significant reduction of our employee numbers. And the technology, yes, speed up our efficiency, consistency for sure, and to some degree, I hope it can also help us to improve our accuracy. It also creates other opportunities for the jewelry industry, make some other testing lab service impossible in the past, but now possible now and in the future. So I think the keep the Gem Labs service is still kind of a reasonably stable manpower would be able to keep.
So essentially what you're saying is that you foresee that AI will support the work of an existing human workforce in grading, and you're not predicting big changes in numbers of jobs of graders in the near to medium term.
I think it's from 10, 15 years ago, industry has been talking about a black box, like everybody's imagining a black box, diamond in, diamond out, and with everything graded automatically with report printed. It's a very good imagination, but practically it is extremely difficult. Each diamond is different, and every diamond needs to be tracked individually. And something instrument can see, some features instrument is very difficult to see, cannot entirely replace human being. I use one simple example, graining in diamond that impacts the top quantity diamond clarity, like a VVS1, VVS2, or internal fullness. Our graders are very well trained to recognize graining with a different intensity, but for instrument at this stage to recognize accurately of the graining feature, repeatable accurately, and still in a affordable that type of resources to be put to do that, I still see some challenges. I still use this one example. Something instrument can do, AI can do, that's still quite a lot, still need to be developed, as I share this with David.
So Paul, Rebecca, please.
So I'm just going to take a little bit of a different perspective here. You know, AI makes total sense for grading because it's data-based, but the data has to be good, to your point. And as an industry, we tend to run rather than necessarily walk. And I just worry about, you know, from the last panel, we talk about consumer trust and how we communicate and how we continue to present diamonds as a luxury product. And that's my perspective where I get a little bit nervous. So I think it's important, you know, AI, there's no guardrails on AI, there's no privacy, there's no security. I mean, we're running and there's all these things that are concerning from a consumer standpoint. So I'm not against it, that's not what I'm saying, but I just think it's really important that we do it properly and that we don't diminish the level of trust or the expected experience from the consumer. So communication is key. Therefore, I do think you're going to need people, still, the human element, maybe not for some diamonds that are more commodity, but certainly for the more special diamonds where there needs to be that last eye on it to give it that credibility and, you know, value that it deserves. I think there's going to be opportunities for chief AI officers in companies because they're going to have to evaluate the type of AI programming that works for different structures. I think there are going to be AI data people, as you said, because the data is really critical so that we make the AI intelligent. So lots of things to consider if we're going to really protect our industry. And that's something that I feel very strongly about.
So thank you for that. Before I come to Paul, if I just bounce that off David, I mean, what is your response to Rebecca's point about, say, safeguards for emerging AI?
So first of all, I agree with you totally. One of the major jobs of a gem lab is creating trust. Otherwise, why would anyone send a diamond to a gem lab? It's not that people don't know how to grade diamonds themselves, not the suppliers, they know how to do a great job. So does the retailer. The gem lab is a stamp of trust. So no doubt that needs to stay, has to stay. The AI is a tool. It's nothing more than that. It's a tool to create an even higher level of trust. Again, I would assume, and again, I think that's what Wui inferred to, they use AI to increase that level of trust that GA provides. We do the same. So definitely that needs to be done responsibly. The safeguards, I mean, the amount of time that I spend with our retail companies, high-end brands doing due diligence on what we do is enormous because they ask those questions, and they are very good questions. They need to be asked, and we need to provide answers to them. So there's definitely a high level of responsibility, just like when doing a manual grading process in a lab, there's a high level of responsibility on the process. The same goes with technology. So I don't see it any differently. The trust needs to be maintained. Through technology, the objective is to increase that level of trust and not to decrease it in any way.
And how do you bring in the safeguards, though?
So just like, with any technology company, just to give you an idea in terms of scale, through our technologies, not necessarily only grading, about 100 million diamonds pass through our technologies annually. That's not something new. That's nothing to do with necessary grading or AI. Over the last 2 decades, we've built technology that sits basically along the pipeline, and we need to build these safeguards, not from today, but from 10 and 20 years ago. Why? Because that data is important to our clients. We work with all the high-end brands. We work with all the major retailers, site holders, the mines themselves. They're entrusting us with their data, and as Rebecca said, the data needs to be quality data, garbage in, garbage out. So they need to entrust us with that data over the last 2 decades. So we've had to build those safeguards, those privacy policies, those privacy protection, IT. I mean, we spend a huge amount of on IT just to make sure that the data is protected, that it's secure, that it's private, and we do that kind of due diligence with our clients because, again, they ask those questions.
Personally, in the foreseeable future, I'm quite convinced that we will be using AI as an enabler, as a co-pilot. But I think that at the end of the day, I still need that human expertise that looks at a diamond and gives an opinion. One small example, because I come from a banking background, from a financial background. If you look at how credit rating agencies work, and S&P, they also have now. Before they had an army of credit analysts, and now they still have them, but a lot of it is driven by AI models. The data is poured into models, and at the end of the day, the cert that is being delivered, sorry, not a cert, but the credit rating which is being delivered, is still decided upon by a credit committee, which is humans, which is not AI. And I believe we will probably move more into that direction than into a completely AI-driven environment.
How AI technologies can potentially improve the efficacy of the work of gem labs, particularly with regard to determining, for example, the origin of a gemstone or the precise determination of color.
Well, it already does for the being consistent with what we put on the report for origin and for treatment. But it is really bad for the industry that we have these inconsistencies. So what we want to do is, and what we achieved with this software, which hopefully we're going to have others joining, that we can take the human factor out of it, because the human factor is a source of inconsistency, a massive one. Keep the microscopic analysis, and for those people who are a bit familiar with what color gemstone labs are doing, that's a massive step. In the past, that was the one single kind of work that you did on a stone. You were studying the stone, studying the inclusion. Now, we still do it, but we get a proposition from the software already based on analytical data only, on running some spectral and chemical analysis, and that's it. And we only need to do a little bit of microscopy to confirm what we call the plausibility test, to check whether the result that the software is giving out is plausible. So that's already also having a consistency improvement and a massive economic benefit for us, which we are happy to forward to the client.
I'm not against AI. I think there's a lot of pros, for aggregation, matching diamonds, storytelling if the data, becomes really intelligent. But I'm always really about the implementation and how we go about doing things. And there's a lot of disparate programs out there right now, that may not really be the right type to use for this. And, also if we look at grading labs, it's been a problem, right? Because we have different standards across the grading labs. And labs will grade a diamond very differently, the same diamond. And now we're going into this, and, it concerns me, especially when we talk about, giving companies like myself, Hearts on Fire, software that I could do it on my own.
The issue of third-party certification. And what role does third-party certification play in bolstering consumer trust? And I realize it's a bit of a derive from the way we have been pursuing this conversation. But as Rebecca said, if she is given her own software and Hearts on Fire issues its own reports, is there, from the perspective of consumer trust, something that third-party certification offers, and all across the board in the jewelry industry, not simply in diamond grading, that will be perhaps lost, that is critical?
Industry oversight is a great idea. Why? Because at least I get the underlying feeling that because people don't know what it means, what AI is, how does it work, they're afraid of it. And I think oversight can alleviate a lot of that. So I think it's a great idea. Because in the end, whether it's GA or whether it's Serene or whether it's another company, our main asset is the trust that we provide.
I mean, do you foresee that the volumes of business and the volumes of stones that will be reported upon would increase going forward due to the infusion of AI technologies?
If I can quickly talk, another example that AI could do better than human being is a lot of jewelry in the trade, and one piece of jewelry that's a pendant could have 200 tiny diamonds on it. And there are some lab-grown mixed together with the nature. For human being to test, to measure every single, even count the stones, is a 200, 201. It's almost impossible for me if I count 3 times, so every time get a different result. AI would be able to do a much better job than human being, not only how many stones, tell you exactly the location, so we can analyze each individually to make sure it's a natural or lab-grown, and it can also give us a size, how big the diameter is. So I use this example, AI can do much better.
I think you'll see, and I think we alluded to that, the ability to test a lot more diamonds that today it's not commercially possible to do so. Cost is a factor, and once you combine automation, physical automation, along with the AI processes, you can actually start evaluating goods that are not evaluated today. So that's one area. Jewelry grading, I think in the end, basically, I think Vicenza is a perfect example. Most of the time, we sell jewelry to the consumer. We don't sell diamonds or gemstones. We sell a jewelry piece.
AI is here, and I think it has a lot of pros, and I'm totally for it. Again, it's just how we accomplish it together as an industry with responsibility and good results. If you look at the graphic design industry as an example, there are, still graphic designers working in design companies using AI. Why? Because to make sure that the end product looks different or has a certain human element to it, they often put the last touch on a piece of art or a piece of packaging or whatever, something that AI can't do. It needs a shadow, or it needs to be angled. So I think there's an opportunity for what we might call AI graders, which means that they're, responsible for making sure, data in, data out. The data has to be good. It has to constantly develop. It has to make the tool more intelligent. And then also, be there to perhaps put that last human check or element touch to the end product.
Question for the whole panel. In view of the infusion of AI-driven technologies across the spectra of GEM labs, are we likely to see more consolidation in the industry? Are we going to see GEM labs buying other GEM labs, fewer players down the line, or not?
I would assume every technology that is changing industries such as ours fundamentally will also lead to kind of a shakeout, right? We're going to see consolidations, we're going to see mergers, we're going to see maybe the number of GEM labs reducing, which I think is a good thing. And at the same time, there's going to be new things popping up, other services, other things that we might not even know what it is today. And I think this is absolutely a wonderful thing to have. So we should not be afraid of that development at all.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Anybody? Yes, Iris van der Weken. Let's see, how are we going to get a microphone? Oh, there is a microphone. Excellent, very good. Heading your way. Iris van der Weken, Executive Director of Watch and Jewellery Initiative 2030.
It works? Okay. Thank you. It works. Thank you very much. So first of all, thank you very much for putting this important topic on the agenda. I have a question for the audience. I'm fully aligned that I think it could be a real big opportunity for the industry to even more traceability and transparency, and to even get more data points into what we know of the product. And if we think about stepping ahead on compliance and legislative requirements, we need to know much more on the origin of source. We will need to know much more on positive and negative impact, biodiversity, nature, etc. This is going to be all science. I mean, actually, sustainability is going to be all about science and engineering. What do you think the role is of AI on that topic, aligned with what you're doing today?
Maybe I'll relate to the grading side. I think one of the big advantages of grading using technology is you have data points. Whereas compared to a manual grading process where a gemologist or grader or two graders or sometimes three graders pick up a diamond and say, this is D, this is E, there's no data points. There's no trail, there's no audit trail. I mean, there's an audit trail of what the grader said, but why did he decide that it's D or E? It's because that's what he decided. Whereas with technology, you have a data trail. You have a full audit trail of why that diamond was graded as it was. And if someone thinks it's incorrect, you can go back to the data. So there's a huge advantage, whether it's grading, whether it's traceability. In fact, many different areas within our industry that those data points provide a lot of that need that you're talking about, whether it's regarding compliance, whether it's regarding process. Data is in the end what can provide that.
Daniel, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I have something to add. Thank you for bringing that up. It is a very important point. This is about GEM labs, right? I mean, in particular for the colored gemstone labs, the fact that we exist is a shame for the industry because there's such a lot of crap going around, coming with the stone, right? There's no transparency. Many of the players, and including ourselves as a Colorstone Gem Lab, our business model is the intransparency of the trade. That's why we exist. So that's why we have started other initiatives. That's why we're embracing AI, because it gives us data. The technology is helping us to get rid of this ridiculous business model that we're also living from the last 100 years. So that's why I fully embrace these technologies. I agree with the statements from the audience that we have to be cautious, but keep in mind, every new technology, I believe, the risks and the opportunities, they get overrated in the short term, and they get underrated in the long term. So we're going to see those technologies being embedded and become commonplace and daily in our lives, which is a good thing.
I think it also, because of the data points, can actually really enhance storytelling. To your point about origin, maybe unique characteristics of a diamond, you know, like an inclusion that becomes something really unique that's only seen in X amount of diamonds. So we start to talk a little bit more about diamonds from an artistic standpoint. So again, there's definitely positive things that I totally embrace. And I think, to your point, it will help with traceability and origin as well.
I think that actually the mission of probably all of us should be to protect the customers. And that also involves sustainability, and the customer might want to know what is the origin of the diamonds, in what sustainable way has it been polished or mined or whatever it may be. So I think there is good synergies possible between your question and what grading laboratories do, because already I think GIA is offering that you can print certain origin on the grading report. I think there's a tracer possibility. We're also in talks with the blockchain companies to have those information printed on the grading reports. So I think the more data which is available to present to the customer is helping all of us.
Thank you very much. We're out of time. I'd just like to say thank you to Gaetano Cavalieri and Steve Benson for putting together this theme and for being right on top of AI, hugely important in our industry. Thank you, panelists. Thank you for the question. Thank you, everybody.